Welcome to this week's inspired video. In this two-piece series, we're focusing on the art and design aspects of storytelling and scrapbooking. I'm garden girl Lisa Dickinson, and today I'm going to be showing you how I was inspired by several elements from the February mood board to create a layout about things that I'm currently loving. I'm also sharing a really easy watercolor technique that anybody can do. So each month at 2Ps, we create a mood board to draw inspiration for our projects that month. This month's board includes lots of references to love since it is February. So there's lots of hearts, along with the traditional pink and red. But don't think that it can only be used for Valentine's Day projects. There are lots of elements that could transition to a scrapbook page of any topic. So to start off, I have gathered some supplies that relate to the mood board in one way or another. The first thing that I have is this 6x6 paper pad from the new Amy Tangerine line, +1. And I grabbed it because it has a lot of pinks and blacks and grays. But beyond the colors, these patterns also feature a lot of icons that are similar to those on the board. There's a lot of brush script, kind of a watercolor look. There's a lot of hearts and like some hand doodled icons that kind of go along with the handwriting on the board. And it's a really good assortment of different patterns that tie in not only with their colors but their motifs to the mood board. Then I've also pulled out some traditional Valentine's Day products. I have these little wooden clips with layered hearts, and they're from the new Crate paper line, Love Notes. And then I just grabbed an assortment of small epoxy stickers from Doodlebug and the hearts, and then just some enamel dots in pink and black. I've also got the set of Flair from the Crate Love Notes line, and both the colors and the fonts remind me of elements from the board. These are just some puffy heart stickers from Skipping 5. And then I've got this sticker sheet from the Crate Love Notes collection. It's got some similar chalkboard brush script lettering that's referenced on the board. And I've grabbed a sheet of craft cardstock that will provide a nice neutral base for my page, as well as some of these 2Ps Flair. These designs are in black and aqua, some gray. And then finally, I've cut out some of this month's digital die cuts. These are love-themed cards that are 3x4, and I'll probably work a few of them into my design. So now I've got a good collection of product to start with, and I'm going to start working on the design of my page. The theme of this month's garden is all about me, and we want to encourage you to make sure that you are represented in your scrapbooks. So this page is going to be a layout about me, and I've printed out 3 photos of myself in black and white. I'm going to start with a craft cardstock base, and this was inspired by these craft cards that are featured on the board because I know that the reds, blues, grays, and pinks are all going to work well on this neutral background. I'd like to incorporate these 3 photos into a grid that will contain 6 blocks. These photos are sized to 3x4, so each block in the grid will be that size as well. So I have 3 spots here to fill in, and I will use those to incorporate some of the products that I showed you earlier. I'm going to start by selecting some pattern paper from this pad. And one that I was really drawn to was this pink one right here that looks a lot like a watercolor painting. Since the layout is going to list some of the things I'm loving right now, I want the colors to be ones that I love as well. I'm liking this freeform brush stroke, and I think it might be a really cool technique to incorporate in these 3 spaces that I have to fill. And since this inspired series is all about art inspiration, I'm going to try to replicate this watercolor effect onto the other spots in my grid. I've cut 2 pieces of white cardstock to the same size as my photos, and these will go in the remaining spots. I'd like to work in some more color and texture on these, so a watercolor technique would be perfect. Looking at the mood board, I am thinking that some of these grays and blues down here at the bottom would mix nicely with this bright pink. I don't have any watercolor paints handy, but I was looking around my scrap space to see what I could use instead, and I realized that I do have a lot of mist, which are essentially watered down inks that would work for painting. So I've got a little cup of water and a paintbrush and some paper towels, so hopefully I won't make a big mess. And I selected 2 Studio Calico Mr. Huey's. This one is Sky, and it's pretty close to the swatch of blue on the board. And then this one is a gray called Pinstripe. So I'm just going to try to recreate this watercolor look with the blue and gray. I'll take this lid off, and then I'm just going to dip the brush into the mist bottle directly and just start painting. I want it to be slightly messy and look hand painted, definitely not perfect. And this is really easy, you truly can't mess it up. I'm just going to layer some more of this ink on here. And I'm just going to set it aside to dry. And then I'm going to clean out this brush with just a little bit of water. If you want your inks to be a lighter shade, you can just add more water. Or you can keep layering on the mist color to darken it. And it will dry a little bit lighter than when it first goes on. So these are going to be a little bit more pastel. Okay, I think that's looking good. I just need to set these aside to let them dry. And you'll see the paper is buckling just a little bit, but if you put a heavy book on them while they dry, they will flatten right out. Okay, my watercolor pieces are dry, and I'm ready to start laying out my page now. As I said originally, I'm going to do a grid and just arrange these 6 elements in 2 rows of 3. Just like that. And I'm planning to layer some more products and embellishments on top of the watercolor blocks. But before I get to that, I want to make sure that I have space to incorporate my journaling, which is going to be a simple list of things that are making me particularly happy right now. I think that I will be able to fit quite a few lines of type just underneath this grid. And then I would save the spaces up here just to add in fun dimensional and textural elements. So my next step is to set up the journaling on my computer and then print it out in this lower part of the page. Before I do that though, I'm considering swapping out this craft base for something just a little bit lighter. I tend to always start with a craft base, but sometimes it's just not quite right. I've grabbed a slightly lighter ivory. This is kind of a vanilla color, and I'm just going to see what these look like on top of it. I do want a little bit of contrast and not a stark white background since the watercolor blocks are on white, and I don't want them to get lost. But I do like this lighter cardstock. I think it has a little bit fresher look than the craft, and it would be better for my page theme. So let's go with that. I'm going to set up my journaling and print it out, and then I will be right back. Alright, I've written my journaling and printed it out, and I've just listed the 10 things that are making my heart happy right now. I really love list-style journaling because it's quick and easy and it doesn't require a lot of thought about paragraph structure or grammatical conventions. I've got an HP printer that will print on 12 by 12, but you could also handwrite this, or you could use journaling strips if you don't have a large format printer. So my plan now is to layer a lot of fun things on top of my watercolor blocks. Earlier I showed you some of the die cuts that I'd made, and I think they'd make a nice layered element in this design. These are all love themed, so they fit with my page. This one says love you in a script font. And that's just a simple heart. That one is the XO. And this one says always, which actually might be a better fit there than love you. And then these two are more solid designs, and I think I'm going to save them for a different project so they don't cover up my watercolor work. So I'm realizing that one of these blocks probably needs to house my title, and I think that this gray block in the center might be a good spot for it. I could use one of the frames, maybe this one that says always as my title, but I'm not sure it's the best option. I'd like to include something about love or love list in the title. So what I think I'll do is die cut a word from white cardstock to use as my title instead of using my frames. I went ahead and cut the word love out of white cardstock to use on my title block. I plan to add some handwriting to this title because that was in several of the items on the mood board, and I'm just going to use a black pen to complete it so it will end up saying 10 things I love right now. I generally like the arrangement of everything, so I'm going to adhere these frames to the backgrounds. And I'm not looking to perfectly align these over the watercolor blocks. I kind of want them to be a bit skewed. Whenever I do grid designs, I try to add in some non-linear elements just so they don't look too blocky and square. I like some things to be a little bit tilted and have slight imperfections just so it has a handmade look. I'm just going to stick this word down for my title block right here. And now I want to build up some of the layers with embellishments. My page is love themed, so it's kind of an obvious choice to select Valentine's Day products, but I think some of these hearts will add repetition to my design and also bring in some different shades of the colors. I like this red and pink, and maybe this soft aqua XOXO banner here on top of the XO frame. And this little love banner could kind of go up here. I'm going to tuck it underneath that. And it kind of balances out the XO. We've got one going this way and one going that way. Maybe I will add this dark gray heart down here to this block. You can see I'm selecting embellishments according to the base layer color. So the red and pink items will go up here, and then I'll put aqua ones here, and the gray and black down here in the center block. Keeping each block somewhat monochromatic helps organize your page visually, and it doesn't look like you just have a haphazard arrangement of colors. Now I've got these crate flare, and I'm thinking this pink one might tuck nicely in underneath this heart. This black one with the word love could go down here, but now I have the word love twice, and that might confuse my title, so maybe not. Let's try one of these 2Ps flare instead. That black is a little dark. I kind of like these little gray crossed arrows. think that would work there. I love these little wooden clips from Crate, and I'd love to incorporate them. Don't think I need much more on my pink block, but I like this aqua heart for over here. Okay, I think I am just about finished. So you can see I stuck everything down, and then I went ahead and hand wrote the rest of my title with a black pen. You could also use little stamps or small alphabet stickers here if you didn't want to use your handwriting. Then I happened to notice that this wooden clip has just a little bit of stitching over the heart. So I went ahead and added some other machine stitching underneath my title block and then up here in the corner. So there's stitching all around the page and there's not just one element of stitching. Then I also added some aqua My Mind's Eye brads before I stuck this block down. And I'm going to balance those out by adding some pink and black enamel dots to the other squares. Kind of like this lighter shade of pink. And I'm just going to stick a few little finishing touches down here. A small one and a big one. Maybe one more small one. Maybe not. No, I think I like two. And then I'll do the same thing down here. The last thing I need to do is add a date to the page, and I almost always use a date stamp for that. So I'm just going to ink mine up and add a date stamp right underneath the journaling here. And I think that finishes the layout. So here is a look at the complete page along with some of the details. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you've seen how our mood board can be a great jumping off point for your next layout, and you'll find something inspiring in the many elements. For more information on my project and the supplies that I used today, please be sure and visit 2peasinabucket.com.